guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to Random Lifestyle Vlog. Today we're going to be testing the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmos palette. So I'm just going to show you the palette, we're going to swatch it, and I'm just going to try it on myself. Just to let you know, my palette came slightly damaged, and let me just show you. So this is the palette. This shade, as you can see, is damaged. I decided to keep it though. I just didn't really have time or energy to kind of like faff around with like returning it, and then I thought this shade is probably going to be the one that I'll be using the least. Yeah, it should be fine. Also, it seems like a clean cut kind of like here, so it shouldn't really crumble much more than that. So yeah, it should be alright. Let me just dim the light a little bit so that you can see the colors better. So there you go. This is the palette in more natural light. What do you guys think? I mean, I really liked the most recent Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, you know, the ones with like bigger pans. The last three palettes were actually really nice. This one, I'm just looking at it, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's quite pretty, but I just don't really find it particularly inspiring. I might be wrong. We're just going to swatch it and we're just going to try it out, and in the end of this video I might actually end up loving it, but I'm just looking at it now and I don't really get that excitement, you know. So yeah, let's move on. Let's just do the swatches and see how it actually works. So the first shade is Super Cluster. Oh, that one is actually really pretty. Then we have Sun, Orion, and Mercury. Oh, that one actually swatched really nicely. Okay, so I had to dim the light a little bit more because these three shades over here, they're not very pigmented. These are more like topper kind of like shades. They have like a really nice kind of like sparkle to them, but they're not really... they don't really give that much like color payout. So hopefully with like more dimmed light, you'll be able to see those colors a bit better. This one swatched really nicely. This is like a really nicely pigmented shade. Okay, let's continue. We have Quasar over here. The next one is Galaxy. Oh, another one that's actually very nicely pigmented, it seems like. Then we have some mattes finally. So this one is Space Dust. And then we have Comet. Okay, and then the last four. So this one here is Eclipse. Then we have Supernova. Next one is Mars. And then the last one is the damaged shade, which is Dark Matter. Ooh, that's not that great, is it? Huh. Okay, so these are all the swatches. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm still not really too impressed, to be honest. I'm not sure, maybe I'm a little bit biased because of the fact that this palette came slightly damaged, but like, it does not really look like super impressive at this point to me. I just kind of like swatched these shades so that it's very difficult for me to see them properly. It kind of seemed like a good idea at some point, but I guess, I mean, it is what it is. At least you can see them properly, but it does not really seem like super exciting from what I can tell. The mattes did not really swatch that amazing. Like, look at this one here, or this one, that's the darkest shade, so definitely not that great. My favorite shades are these two shimmers over here. They are quite nicely pigmented, like probably the most pigmented shades in this whole palette, and they look actually really quite nice. I like this one here as well, the Super Cluster. This is more like a sheer kind of like finish, like a little topper shade, but it does look quite pretty. Other than that, I think this one actually looks pretty interesting as well. I mean, you can probably barely see it, but it does give this kind of like almost like a glossy finish. But then the other shades, I don't know what you think. I mean, obviously you're just going to test it out. Sometimes swatches don't really give you the whole picture. Like sometimes the shades don't really swatch that amazing, but they look better on an eyelid. So okay, just give me a second. I'm just going to try and create something on one of my eyes, and then we're just going to recreate on the other eye. Do you know what? I actually quite like this makeup, and even though I was obviously attempting to use as many shades as possible, it was like a kind of like a testing makeup situation. I did not really put that much thought into it. I still think it looks quite alright, but let's just recreate this on the other eye. I'm just going to recreate all the steps so that you can see my whole thought process and I can just share my opinions with you at the same time. So since I wanted to use as many shades as possible, I started with this one over here, which is Space Dust in my crease. I built it up slightly with this Comet here, and then I decided to use both Eclipse and the damaged one, dark matter. So let's just do that. Let's go ahead and use the space dust in my crease. And it does show slightly. It does show slightly, which is good. So that is literally what I would probably expect from this shade. Then we're going to build this up with the Comet shade, which is like a little bit darker, and you can definitely see that. You can definitely see this shade building up slightly. So far so good, I would say. Now we need to move on to those darker shades, which is Eclipse and Dark Matter, and I'm just going to build up the color in my outer corner. So we're starting with Eclipse. And this shade, as you can see, it does show, but it's not like extremely pigmented. I mean, it is fine, like there's nothing really bad going on. It blends nicely with the other shades, so that is cool. It does look a little bit darker in the panel, it seems like, but yeah, it's buildable, it's alright, I'm not really going to complain much here. And then I wanted to go like one step farther from here and use the Dark Matter, and this is the damaged shade. And when I apply this Dark Matter shade, to be honest, I don't really see that much difference between this and the Eclipse. So maybe adding a little bit of color, but to be honest, it seems like if I added more of this Eclipse shade and kind of like build it up like that, I will have the same result. So I'm glad that this was the damaged shade in my palette, because I had this feeling that this is the one that I'll be using the least, and I think it was quite accurate. So this is where I'm at currently. This Dark Matter shade definitely doesn't really feel like it has a lot of pigmentation to it, and it also feels very dry as well. When I was like swatching it, it did feel very dry. So I think there's a bit of quality lacking in case of this particular shade. But the other shades were fine. The other mattes actually worked really nicely. There's nothing like mind-blowing about them. Like I've tried like mattes that were better. I think the previous Anastasia's palettes had a little bit better quality when it comes to like mattes, but all in all, there's nothing wrong with them. So moving on, I was actually really curious about this shade over here, which is Galaxy. This is like a sparkly kind of shimmery shade, so I'm guessing it will look beautiful like all over your eyelid, but that will be like a very kind of like a dark makeup. So this is that swatch over here, but since it's so pigmented, or it seems so pigmented, I decided to actually build my like outer corner with this shade. And with this pigmentation, it actually worked really nicely. As you can see, it adds a lot of pigmentation. Like it's definitely better than both of these like darker mattes in that department, and definitely much better quality. It's extremely pigmented, so don't really add too much of this shade because it might be a little bit difficult to blend it. It might actually blend like farther than you expected, so be careful with that. That's like a really nice quality shade, and obviously if you just use it like that and blend it, it's not going to be as sparkly. If you want to have like the full sparkle, I guess it would be better to apply with your finger, but then it wouldn't be as precise. I feel like I need to mention that there is a little bit of like fallout involved, which is to be expected. Like most Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes create some fallout, but nothing too crazy. Not really sure what's wrong with my concealer today, but it's just not right. Okay, anyway, this is where we're at. We're going to move on and use the other shade that kind of impressed me in the swatch, and this is the Mercury, which is over here. So this is the one, and I'm going to use this one in my on my lower lash line. So I'm just using it from my outer corner to kind of like almost my inner corner, but not all the way through. And as you can see, it is actually really nicely pigmented. It does have this kind of like, it looks a little bit like lead. Even though I apply this with my brush, it does still have this metallic kind of like sparkle to it. So that is actually really nice. So I'm just going to slightly blend it out, and we're going to move on to another shimmery shade that I'm going to use all over my lid, and this is this one over here, Quasar. So again, I really like the swatch. It's like a kind of like a duochrome shade, but it's not really very pigmented, and this is exactly what it is. I mean, you can build it up. Let me just show you. You can build it up. It just looks stunning. It does give you this beautiful sparkle, but as you can see, I just applied like one thin layer, and you can definitely tell that this is not really giving me much coverage here or like much pigment. So you know, you can build it up, you can just make it a little bit more cohesive. Obviously we just have to like blend everything together, but it just looks really beautiful. So this is a really lovely shade. I'm just kind of blending the edges here so to make it look like more cohesive. I think this one is stunning, and again, probably one of the best shades in this palette. Now I'm going to use this shade over here, Super Cluster, and I'm going to apply this in my inner corner. So I'm applying this in my inner corner. As you can see, it's actually a little bit more pigmented than I expected, and I'm just going to connect it with this kind of like a lower lash line. So we have a little bit of fallout, but you can definitely see that this shade is quite pigmented. I mean, I did not really expect it, judging by the swatch. It was this one over here, but it does perform better on my eyelid. And then to finish this off, I decided to use one more shade in my brow bone, and I wasn't really sure which one to use, but I decided to go ahead and use this one over here, which is Sun. And it actually worked quite nicely, nicer than I expected. I kind of, I was afraid that this is going to be like too kind of like golden, but it does have this kind of duochrome quality as well. It has like a pinkish undertone. Can you see? This actually looks quite nice. So I'm just obviously going to blend it out because I don't really want this to be like too shiny. Yeah. And this is it. This is the finished makeup. I'm obviously going to apply like whatever else I applied on the other eye, which is the liner and mascara, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay guys, so this is the finished look, and what do I think about this palette in the end? I mean, it was a little bit of a roller coaster if you ask me. First of all, obviously the palette came slightly damaged, so that kind of like obviously wasn't great, but as I said before in the beginning of this video, I did not really feel particularly inspired by those shades. But then we also had the swatches that were not particularly impressive if you ask me, and it turned out to be like partially true. Like some of these shades I feel like are a little bit like lower quality than expected, and some of them are amazing. Like we do have those like two shades over here that are extremely pigmented, so why wouldn't they do the same thing with those mattes? Like I haven't really tried this one over here, Mars. It did swatch quite alright compared to the other dark shades, so maybe it's nice, I don't know. But these two shades were not particularly impressive. Like these two lighter mattes, obviously there's only so much pigmentation you can get, or like so much color you can get from these, but whenever you look at those like darker shades, you kind of expect them to give that color. But this one, it's quite dry compared to the other shades, and I'm not really, I mean, no surprise that it actually broke. It's actually very dry. So I don't know, I feel like this palette is quite uneven, even though you can create like a really stunning look with it. Some of these like sparkly shimmery shades, they are more beautiful like in person compared to like the swatches. They give this like really nice duochrome vibe, and that helps creating like those really kind of like nice looks. But then we do have those shades that are really not amazing, so quite an uneven palette. What is the final verdict? I mean, it's a nice palette. It's a little bit more interesting than I thought it would be, but quality wise it is quite uneven. Like we do have some shades that are a bit like subpar, so I don't know if this is something I can like wholeheartedly recommend to you. It is a nice palette. I'm glad to have it, but is it something I would like 100% recommend? I just don't know. I think if you like those kind of like sparkly, shimmery, duochrome makeup looks, then this palette could be nice for you. Since there are like some ups and downs in terms of quality in this palette, maybe just wait for Black Friday and just get it like, I don't know, 30% off. That would make a bit more sense. So there you go. This is my review of Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmos palette. Have you tried it? If so, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. I would love to know your thoughts as usual. Thank you very much for watching. For more makeup related content, check those videos over here. I'm going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye.